LSU gets run ruled by Northwestern State. My goodness, do we have a lot to discuss. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. And my goodness, I can only imagine what the comments are going to be tonight. For the first time this season, LSU loses a midweek game. But my goodness, they didn't just lose a midweek game, friends. No, they didn't just lose a midweek game. LSU got run ruled at home by Northwestern State. On the television broadcast, they made note that this is the first time ever that LSU has been run ruled at home in a midweek game. So a very dubious distinction for this baseball team right here on the brink of the most important weekend of the year with Tennessee coming to Alex Box Stadium. And Tigers got a gigantic slopping plate of humble pie in this one. We got a lot to discuss. Jay Johnson started Jared Jones at third base, something that we absolutely have to get into. The pitching staff was atrocious in this baseball game, which we'll, of course, also talk about as well. So what does it mean moving forward? Okay, if you're new to the format, thank you for being here with us. A quick reminder, I'll give you about 10 minutes here or so of my thoughts on the game. And then we'll grab our very quick break and I'll get to your questions and comments. So please fire away, get them in there. This game was a little disjointed. It started 30 minutes late. It was scheduled for 6:30 first pitch. Didn't start till 7 because there was bad weather in the area. Tigers were going pretty good. They were up 2-0. Derek Curiel hit the first pitch of the game for LSU out of the ballpark. I mean, just mashed a 416-foot homer to right center. Josh Pearson led off the second with a homer. You're up 2-0. Jaden Newt actually looked pretty good. Retired 7 of the first 8 that he faced. He struck out 3. The only guy that got on base was a walk. Feeling pretty good. And then trouble started in the top of the third. After Jared Jones committed, which should have been an error. They ruled it a hit, but it was a tapper to third. He couldn't handle it. They ruled it a hit. Should have been an error. Which should have been 3 on the night, which we'll talk about in a second. Single up the middle. The tapper to Jones at third, 2 on. Then all of a sudden, here comes the lightning. It's an hour and 33-minute delay. And my goodness, when the teams came out of the lightning delay, it was almost like in Varsity Blues when they go to the strip club, Miss Davis is dancing and all that stuff. And the next morning you see the doors open and the sun lights and they're like, they can't even think. And then they had to go play. Who was it? Was it Bingville? I don't remember if it was Bingville or whoever it was that they played. And they just got absolutely demolished. Very similar here by an inferior team. A team that wasn't ready to play, a team that didn't execute coming out of the rain delay. You wonder if you didn't have a rain delay, is it a different game? Maybe, probably, who knows? We'll never know. But perhaps the gut check that this team needed at the right moment. That third inning, y'all, was a comedy of errors. Like if you didn't have a rooting interest and you just watched the third inning, you would just sit there and laugh. After the weather delay, Cooper Williams comes out. He gets to face 2 hitters. He hits Stevenson and then gives up the RBI single. He's out of the game. They go get Connor Benj. First hitter Benj faces, boom, 3-run homer. You're down 5-2 just like that. Benj gets a strikeout. Then he hits a guy. Valentine steals second. Aaron Beatty throws it into center field, so you get to third base. And then you have a fielding error by Jones. This is the ground ball to third that he couldn't handle. They actually ruled an error, and a run comes home. So just like that, you're down 6-2 at that point. To add insult to injury, Jones would strike out to lead off the bottom of the third. Maverick Rizzi would go to pitch the fourth. And then here goes Jekyll and Hyde Maverick Rizzi. He goes strikeout, walk, hit by pitch, wild pitch, walk. So now the bases are loaded. Another tapper to Jones at third, another error. It's 7-2. Rizzi would get the fly out. He'd go back out there for the fifth, go strikeout, ground out. But Dickinson in the bottom of the fourth grounded out with the bases loaded when the Tigers at 7-2 had a chance to get back in it. But again, Tigers unable to come through with the bases loaded there. In the bottom of the fifth, Jake Brown homer. Shocker that Jake Brown homered. They pinch hit for Ethan Fry because in 2 at-bats against a righty, he was no good, struck out and grounded out. I don't know where it is here. No, popped out. That's what it was. Struck out, popped out, and then so they pinch hit, bring in a lefty, and Ashton Larson, and he promptly doubles. Shocker. So Ethan Fry, very good against lefties, not very good against righties, what we've been talking about all year. Ever since they did away with the platoon at DH and let Fry hit every game in conference play, his batting average has dropped 100 points in conference play because Ethan Fry hits very well against lefties. He does not hit very well against righties. It's very obvious, but sometimes coaches can be stubborn as well, and that's what Jay Johnson is right now. And his refusal to play Jake Brown every day and his insistence on getting Ethan Fry in the lineup every day. It's to the detriment of the team, and you saw it tonight. And this foolishness of running Jared Jones out there at third base, which I'll talk about here in just a quick second. It didn't get any better. Primo came in the sixth, hits a guy, throws a wild pitch to score a run, allows an RBI ground out, a sac fly. Rizzi went single walk. Primo comes in, hit by pitch, wild pitch, RBI ground out, sac fly. You're down 10-3 just like that. Dorsey would come in the seventh. He'd give up an RBI double. Dylan Thompson would make his LSU debut. He'd given up an RBI single. You're down 13-3, and that's all she wrote. So that's about how the game went. It was just a comedy of errors. I mean, you did nothing well except Jake Brown homered, Ashton Larson doubled. Maverick Rizzi had some strikeouts, but it was a Jekyll and Hyde. Like I said, he went strikeout, walk, hit by pitch, wild pitch, walk, error on Jones, fly out. Went out for the fifth and was great in the fifth. Strikeout, ground out, faced the minimum, which I think was the only time they did that all day. No, Newt faced the minimum in the first. My apologies. Anyway, couple things. You continue to look for consistency in your pitching staff, and you don't have it. And the unfortunate thing is, it's one thing. Like, I don't think LSU is going to count on Chandler Dorsey to throw a significant pitch this year, or Dylan Thompson. The problem is you need Maverick Rizzi. You need DJ Primo. You need Connor Benj. You need Cooper Williams. And none of those guys was able to do a lick. That's unfortunate. Newt retired 7 of the first 8, struck out 3, was pretty good. The only guy that got on was a walk. Then he allowed the first 2 guys on in the third, and then the Lightning came. So who knows what would have happened in that situation if the Lightning didn't come? Did they let him work through it? I don't know. I don't know what happens there. But the problem is, like, some of those guys that were atrocious in this ball game, you're going to need down the stretch, and they weren't good enough for you tonight. That's unfortunate. The Jared Jones experiment, there was a guy on Twitter who was commenting about this. And said, well, if you can't try it now in a midweek game against Northwestern State, when can you try Jared Jones at third? I got a brilliant idea. Fall ball. Fall ball is when you try that. Fall baseball, when nothing matters. When you're trying to learn your team, that's when you figure out who can play where. You don't go try Jared Jones at third base in late April thinking that might be the answer. By the way, if you think moving your All-American first baseman to third base at the end of April with 4 weeks left in conference play, oh, by the way, the next 3 are Tennessee, at Texas A&M, and Arkansas. And if you think the answer might be moving Jared Jones to third base, and I know what he's doing, he realizes he's got to get Jake Brown in the lineup. The thing that I've been yelling about with veins popping out of my neck for months, because it's the most obvious thing in the world, but you have a head coach right now who's too stubborn to do it because he's bought in on Ethan Fry. And I get it. He loves Ethan Fry. Fry's got a great frame, high upside, could be a big leaguer, all that stuff. But as I've said a million times, it's not Jay Johnson's job to produce big leaguers. It's Jay Johnson's job to win games at LSU. And if you do not have Jake Brown in your lineup every day, you are that is negligence. You are choosing to put yourself at a disadvantage by not having one of your best players in the lineup every single day. And planting Jake Brown, who's your most athletic right fielder at first base, is stupid. It's stupid. Why in the world would you put that athletic outfielder at first base? I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get Pearson, Brown, and Fry all in the lineup. Like, I know what he's trying to do. It's also to the detriment of your team giving up a glove at third base and putting Jake Brown at first base and making yourself less athletic in right field and continuing to put Ethan Fry in the lineup every day, no matter if they're facing righties or lefties, when he is very clearly not the same hitter against righties that he is against lefties. Like, there are some things that are just obvious. At this point, Jay Johnson does not want to acknowledge them. So I'll keep talking about it. This feels like the first concession where actions speak louder than words. Trying this was an acknowledgement that he knows he's got to get Jake Brown in the lineup. And so he tried to do this cockamamie foolishness, putting your All-American first baseman, who's 6'4", 250 at third base for the first time in his career, by the way, as a junior in late April. Oh, let's see if this works. And some guy on Twitter, the same guy, was like, oh, well, what about Maneri moving Austin Nola to shortstop? And yeah, you mean the guy who was one of the top shortstops in the country coming out of high school? Stunning that actually worked. Did you put a shortstop at shortstop? That ain't nearly the same thing. You're taking Jared Jones, who was a high school catcher and has been planted at first base his entire career, and now in April of his junior year, you're trying to give him a start at third base because you think that might be the answer? Yo, that is grasping at straws. That is desperation, and that is foolish. And it looked foolish. And I feel bad for Jared Jones because he went out there and committed 2 errors officially, which should have been 3 errors in this ballgame. That was Will Helmer's starting at third base for Maneri all over again. The difference is Maneri did it in the season opener. This is late April before you're about to host Tennessee, go to A&M, and then host Arkansas. Like, you're in the toughest stretch of your season, and you think the answer is Jared Jones at third base? What actually are we doing here? Like, this team is plenty good enough to win a national championship. And Jay Johnson is a national championship winning head coach. Like, he's a smart, you don't need me to tell you this. The guy's a smart baseball guy. He had Arizona in the championship series. Like, he's great. He's a great coach. I was talking to Todd Walker on AFR earlier today, and he said it point blank. Some coaches tinker. Nobody does it more than Jay Johnson. And at times it borders on desperation. That's what tonight looked like. That's what it looked like. All the defensive shifts and alignments, all the offensive timeouts. Now that, like, there's so much thought into every single thing, and at times it pays off, but there's a lot of times it looks like it did tonight. I don't think we'll ever see this again. You could say it was worth a shot. That's foolish. It was not worth a shot. Thinking that Jared Jones, your All-American first baseman, going to third base in late April with 4 weeks in the SEC to go of his junior season, and now he's all of a sudden going to become a third baseman. That is actually an insult to people who are very good third basemen, to think that that's just going to happen like that. In any event, I don't care about the loss. Y'all know how I feel about midweek games. LSU's number 7 in the country. They're a top 15 RPI team. I think there might be. I need to check it after tonight what the updated RPI is. Like, they're fine. Like, I'm not a lick worried about losing this baseball game. It's embarrassing. It stinks. Would it have been different without a delay? Probably. Does it stink that you came out of that delay lethargic? Look, Jay tried to do the whole rah-rah speech in the dugout after the third to try to get everybody motivated. It didn't work. Look, go sleep it off. Come back and practice tomorrow. Get ready to play Tennessee when you'll have an All-American and a top 15 draft pick on the mound in Kate Anderson. And it's amazing how that'll completely change your fortunes. Like, LSU's fine. They're going to be fine. I'm not worried about that. I'm more, if anything, concerned that some of the arms that you're going to count on were so bad in this game. And the fact that you felt the desperate need to move Jared Jones to third as the solution to get Jake Brown in the lineup, which it's very clear. As I'll say it again today, as I've said it a million times. If you're an everydayer, you've heard me say it a million times. Jake Brown needs to be your everyday right fielder. Take a friggin' Sharpie when you get the lineup card. You put Curiel in left. You put Stanfield in center. You put Brown in right. You put Jones at first. You put Dickinson at second. You put Milam at short. When you're playing an SEC team, Luis Hernandez is your catcher. You want a platoon at third? Fine. You want a platoon at DH? Yes. Everything else is set. At this point, you know what your lineup is. When you're facing a righty, Pearson DHs. When you're facing a lefty, Fry DHs. That is your lineup. Put Braswell at third. If you want to get Reeves in there to get another left-handed bat, okay, but you're sacrificing a glove. Braswell at third should be your answer. Like, that's your lineup. You know at this point, in late April with 4 weeks to go, who your best 9 are. We all know it. You know it. I know it. We all know it. But none of us writes the lineup card. It's on Jay now to do what everyone knows is the right thing and the best thing for this team. We'll see if he does. Big weekend ahead with Tennessee coming in. Okay, let me knock out my very, very, very quick break, and I'll get to your questions and comments. Can't wait to see these. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Price on the app actually goes down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I love Gametime mostly because of the all-in pricing. We've all been there before. You go to a ticketing app, you see a price, you buy a ticket, you get to check out, and it's not even close to that price. With Gametime, with the all-in pricing, it means there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by PrizePicks, where baseball season is now in full swing. And there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. PrizePicks keeps every game exciting. You can build your lineup, maybe about Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run, or Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 stolen base. It's that easy. It's fast and simple. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's PrizePicks. Run your game. Okay, LSU gets run ruled by Northwestern State 13-3. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here. It is 14 minutes before midnight, a Tuesday game, and there are 227 of you beautiful, brave souls hanging out with me as we push toward the midnight hour. I am so glad to have you aboard. The game sucked. It was miserable. Hate that it played out the way it did, but it gives us a lot to talk about, and it shows the passion and love that a lot of you have, like I do, for this baseball program. We all want everybody, look, y'all, we all love LSU, and we want LSU to be great. We want them to win every game and win the national championship, and how we talk about getting there will be interesting, but I'm glad to have you hanging out with us here. Hey, Monty, baseball is going to baseball. Someone tweeted me earlier and said it's the most embarrassing loss ever at LSU. I said, hey, let's have some perspective here. Like, LSU lost 12-7 to Southern last year. And with respect, the SWAC is the worst baseball league in America. Losing on your home field to Southern is an abomination that should never happen. Like, that is worse than being run ruled by Northwestern State. Hey, Vince Lejeune. Charleston, at least Curiel has his hit streak. That his reach-based streak continues. Hey, Miracle Martinez, thanks for being there. Justin LaGrange, overreacting to a midweek game with a long rain delay incoming. 3, 2, 1. I'm not overreacting to a midweek game, to the loss, Justin. And I'm very clear about this. I very much understand the nature of a loss. A loss like that doesn't hurt you. Okay, you're 12-6 in the toughest league in America. You've got a top. Let me see what LSU's up. Let's see if the RPI is up. Your resume is fine. The next 3 weeks, you're going to be great with Tennessee, Texas A&M, and then Arkansas. You're 12 in the RPI right now. So that that's updated as of this loss. So you're 17-1 against Q4. Look, your non-conference strength of schedule is 235, which is the thing that hurts you. I mean, Jay put together an abomination of a schedule, of a non-conference schedule. And sometimes you're going to have this happen when you do that, but it just doesn't matter because even though your non-conference strength of schedule is 235, your RPI is 12 because of the strength of the SEC. So it's why we always talk about it. I'm not overreacting to losing that game because losing that game isn't going to cost you anything. It's what you learn about your team coming off of this. That'll be interesting. Our CRA Dave said that was discussing. Yes, it was. Run rule by Northwestern State. Northwestern's in the Big Ten. Sonny Nola said, how about Jones at shortstop or center field? Or maybe we can let Stanfield pitch. How about if we try, let's let Stanfield start Friday night since we're just trying things. Monty, it does seem Jay is trying to do everything except start Jake Brown in right field. Doesn't it? I mean, it's a pretty, like, you've been here, right? You all, if you're hanging out with me at almost midnight on a Tuesday after this Northwestern State game, you all have been here. Like, y'all were here Saturday when I blew a gasket. You know how I feel about this, and that I've been yelling about this since the start of the season. Jake Brown might be the best player on your team. I understand the argument for Derek Curiel. Brown hits with more power than Curiel. Probably has a higher upside there. We could have the conversation about Milam or Jones, whoever you want. I mean, but Jake Brown is hitting 327. He has power to all fields. He's your best defensive right fielder. Great arm, great speed. He's a stolen base threat when he gets on base. His on base percentage of 402. Like, and we can look at Fry, and I get it. Fry coming into this night was your leading hitter at 367. I understand that, and that's what people are going to throw out. The point that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge is that early in conference play, Fry was hitting 350 in SEC play, but you played Missouri and you played a couple of winnable weekends. After Texas, you played Mississippi State. And since then, his batting average in league play has dropped over 100 points. So, like, what really matters? The fact that you mash on a Tuesday night, and by the way, Fry was 0 for 2 in this ballgame with a strikeout and pop out against a righty, nonetheless, or what you do in league play. And like, that's why, I mean, Stanfield's hitting 383 against the conference. Dickinson's hitting 338. Curiel 333. The only other player hitting above 300 in SEC play is Jake Brown. He's at 302. Giant drop-off. Then Hernandez is down to 271. Fry's hitting 244 in conference play. Jones is hitting 244. Pearson's hitting 224 in conference play. I mean, if there's anybody that should be benched, it would be Pearson. Brown's is your best right fielder and your best hitter among that group. And if you're that pot committed to Fry, then stick with him. But I think this should be a platoon at DH. Like, I'm not just going to complain and not give the answer. I've given you my answer, and I've never budged off of it. Brown should be in right. Pearson should bat when there's a right-handed starting pitcher. Fry should DH when there's a left-handed starting pitcher. That's the approach. It's almost as if playing 1/3 of your defense comically out of position was a bad idea. Let's see if Brian Kelly wants to try safeties at defensive tackle. I'm glad y'all are saying it. I mean, I've said it too, but I'm glad y'all are saying it. Zach Lee, this doesn't define the season. Man, this deserves criticism. Of course it does. Joel Cunningham, Jones at third base. Woof. You know, we saw Paul Maneri do this with Will Helmers in the opening weekend of the season. And but it was the opening weekend of the season. And it didn't cost you anything. The big problem I have with it, the biggest problem with moving Jones to third, is that you don't do that. If you're Jay Johnson, you don't make that decision without thinking, this could be the solution. And I get it. Playing Jones at third base on a Tuesday night, like it doesn't, like losing this game doesn't cost you. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't cost you any of your goals. It's not like in college football, if you have a loss and then you lose at home to Nichols, now you're out. You're just out. You're not overcoming that. Like you can overcome this. This doesn't hurt you big picture one iota. But what it signifies is Jay thought this was actually a good idea, like something that could be the answer to get Brown, Pearson, and Fry all in the lineup at the same time. And that's just not smart. Like, if you get to a point, I understand you're in a game and you have to. This happened over the weekend when on Saturday when Jones went to third. You get into a game, you need to put a pinch hitter into the ball game. And like, as a result, you've got to make some defensive adjustments. Okay. And so sometimes guys have to go play out of position as a result of that. That's fine. This doesn't make a lick of sense. Let's see. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel. If you're on podcast listening or if you're on YouTube watching on demand, remember we are live as soon as the games go final. Let's see. Braswell will start at third this weekend. Brown will start in right. Pearson and Fry will platoon at DH. They should. I don't know if I believe that's going to happen. Brock, classic overthinking by Jay with Jones at third. Survivor's remorse. I don't know what to say. They packed it in after the rain delay. They did. All right, y'all. See if I can get to a lot of the same questions. I'm not going to read any vulgarities, by the way. So if you are with us live, thank you. I'm not going to read vulgarities here on Locked On. Let's see. How close was Larson from hitting it out today? Really close. And had that ball left the yard, Larson looked like he injured himself on the turn, like running towards second base. You wonder if it had left the yard and gone into a trot, maybe he didn't get hurt. But again, that was an instance where Fry strikes out and fouls out against a righty. Next time he's up, they put a lefty in and Larson, and he doubles off the wall. Like, play your team strengths. There's just some obvious things here, man. Gulf South said Pearson has a liability in right, but he stays in the lineup because he'll go 0 for 3, but the fourth at-bat will hit a 2-run double in the eighth for LSU to take the lead. He's clutch. Yeah, then you pinch hit him in that situation when you need him. Because what about the 0 for 3 that cost you opportunities earlier in the game? The clutch thing, I'm with it. Like, guys can be clutch and guys can want to be up in a big situation, but the bottom line also is that Josh Pearson right now in conference play is hitting 224. Like, here's the interesting thing. Do you realize Stephen Milam, his batting average in conference play is 200? Stephen Milam's hitting 200 in conference play, but nobody says a word about benching Stephen Milam because he's your starting shortstop. He's a great defensive player. He brings so much to the team. He homered this weekend, the 3-run bomb, the clutch gene, all that stuff. But you also don't have another option at shortstop. So the difference here is you've got an option in Jake Brown, who's a better outfielder, a better hitter. He's better at everything. He's a better baseball player. He's a better option than Josh Pearson, period. Like, that's not even a debate at this. If you try to debate that at this point, it's like you're trying to argue that 2 + 2 is 5. It's just not true. Hold on. This guy said Will Helmers was brilliant last year in Chapel Hill. He was awesome. And Will Helmers is great on the radio too. I love having Will Helmers on. Talking about when Will Helmers 3 years ago, no, it was Maneris. Was it 5 years ago? When Paul Maneris started Will Helmers at third base. That's what I'm talking about. And Helmers committed like 3 errors in an inning. They pulled him and he never went back there. That's what I'm talking about. That's what this felt like. All right. Let's see. Does Tanner Reeves fit in the lineup at all? It depends what you want. Reeves is hitting 263 in conference play, but Braswell's all the way up to 324 now in conference play. Like, we know Braswell can hit an SEC play, and Reeves is a liability defensively. I could have made a case earlier that if you want better power and you want another left-handed bat, you would sacrifice the glove at third to put Reeves in. At this point, Braswell has been a better offensive option than Reeves in conference play. I mean, I'm looking at it right here. In conference play, Braswell is at 324. Tanner Reeves is at 263 in conference play. On base percentage, Braswell 439, Reeves 391. And in conference play, Reeves has committed 3 errors, Braswell just 1. That's just conference games only. So, no, I don't think you have at this point, if you want to play Tanner Reeves on a Tuesday night, the same way you're playing Kader and Beatty on a Tuesday night to get some of these guys experience, okay. When you're playing Tennessee this weekend and you got to go beat the Vols and you're going to face Liam Doyle, who's going to throw 100 from the left side. There's going to be 5 dudes throwing 100 coming out of the bullpen, and that team and that lineup and how talented they are. Like, you can't justify having a guy at third that has a higher chance of kicking a ball just to get another left-handed bat in the lineup. So no, I don't think Tanner Reeves at this point on this team has a role in the final month of the regular season or in the postseason. I mean, I think the role, well, let me rephrase that. The role would be, there's probably a time where you're going to need a left-handed pinch hitter. But tonight, that was Ashton Larson. Over the weekend, that was Ashton Larson. Could that be Tanner Reeves at some point? Absolutely. But as far as platoon or starting him at third, no. Michael Braswell needs to be your third baseman every day. I think we all understand that at this point. All right, y'all, let's get out of here. Look at that. It's cool. Aaron Hornsby, the best ever in Louisiana. Matt Moscona live on Mike Locked on LSU. I appreciate y'all for being here, man. I wouldn't be here if y'all weren't. So thanks for hanging out. Okay. Let's get out of here. Have a great night. If you're with us live, thank you. If you're on demand on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Remember, after every game goes final, we're here live on the Locked on LSU YouTube channel. So if you're on podcast, you're watching on demand, remember, be sure to join us as soon as the game goes final. We're live on the Locked on LSU YouTube channel. All right, until next time, it's Locked on LSU, your team every day.